When did media outlets decide that hiding a criminal's past was their new public service? The Spokesman-Review just pulled the ultimate sleight of hand, spend 485 words painting a sympathetic portrait of Martin Diaz before casually mentioning, oh, by the way, he's a twice convicted felon with assault and domestic violence charges. It's like a dating profile that mentions the arson conviction in the fine print. This isn't just sloppy journalism. It's calculated manipulation. They're serving emotional propaganda disguised as news, hoping you'll swallow it before noticing the facts they buried 42 paragraphs deep. The left-wing press has mastered this game, turning criminals into victims and making deportation sound like some heartless punishment rather than the logical consequence of committing felonies, while here, illegally. Let's unpack this masterclass in media misdirection. Supporting an illegal immigrant, two-time felon, the Spokesman-Review's shockingly one-sided news report goes all in for a twice-convicted felon and illegal immigrant previously accused of rape, assault, and domestic violence. Yet you'd never know about his criminal past from the headline or the first half of the piece. Clever omission or sloppy journalism? You decide. Oh, it's clever all right. About as clever as a bank robber wearing a name tag. This isn't sloppy journalism, it's calculated journalism. The Spokesman-Review isn't accidentally burying the lead. They're giving it a proper funeral with full honors and hoping no one shows up to pay respects. You know what's fascinating? A 2022 Reuters study found that 41% of Americans believe the media intentionally misleads them. But hey, why would readers need to know about rape accusations and domestic violence when there's a perfectly good deportation narrative to sell? I mean, I'm not saying all media is propaganda, but if it walks like propaganda and talks like propaganda, at some point we should probably stop calling it a duck. The report by Thomas Klaus and Alexandra Dugan is titled, Man Without a Country, ICE Arrests Spokane Resident Brought to America as Toddler. It's meant to elicit outrage and compassion. Man without a country? Really? How about two-time felon faces consequences? But no, that doesn't grab heartstrings like a toddler story. Look, I get it. Nobody wants to click on violent criminal gets deported. That headline gets about as many clicks as water still wet, film at 11. What we're seeing here is emotional marketing disguised as reporting. These journalists aren't writing headlines. They're writing Hallmark cards for felons. Somewhere in America, a violin is playing the world's saddest song for this man without a country who somehow found enough time between being countryless to rack up multiple felony convictions. But hey, don't let me sound too heartless here. I do believe in second chances. I just don't necessarily believe in third chances after rape allegations and domestic violence. How could the evil Trump administration do this to an innocent man, 35-year-old Martin R. Diaz, who was brought here as a child? Indeed, the article spends 485 words focused on President Donald Trump's promise to swiftly and aggressively deport immigrants with criminal records during his campaign and after the election, although some deportations included a child with cancer and a man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, mistakenly deported to El Salvador that the administration has refused to bring back. 485 words. They spent 485 words, that's almost double my last apartment lease agreement, setting up this narrative before mentioning anything about why this guy was actually on ICE's radar. That's like me telling you about a car, its beautiful paint job, comfy seats, amazing sound system, for 20 minutes before casually mentioning that, oh, by the way, it doesn't have an engine. Let's talk about this framing. According to ICE's own data, over 86% of deportations under the Trump administration involve people with criminal records or pending criminal charges. But the Spokesman-Review plays the greatest hits compilation, The Cancer Child, The Mistaken Deportation. Classic examples cherry-picked to make all deportations sound like tragic mistakes. Listen, any system will have errors, and cases like The Cancer Child are genuinely tragic. I'm not a monster. But using these outliers to frame a story about a convicted felon, that's like using a paper cut to explain why someone needed major surgery. It only took 1,259 words. Or 42 article paragraphs before you learn why he's being deported? 42 paragraphs. 42. That's not burying the lead. That's launching it into space. The average news reader gives an article 15 seconds before deciding whether to continue. I've done the math here. At average reading speeds, 99% of readers would bail before hitting paragraph 42. That's not an accident. You've got a better chance of finding Bigfoot riding a unicorn than the average person has of reading 42 paragraphs into a news article. The Spokesman-Review knows exactly what they're doing. They're counting on you getting the emotional payoff in the first few paragraphs and then checking out before the inconvenient facts show up. It's like those medication commercials where they spend 28 seconds showing you people dancing in fields of flowers and then 2 seconds speed reading the side effects that include, death. But hey, look at the pretty flowers. Here's why Garcia has an order of removal. The Spokesman-Review reports that he was charged with third-degree rape in 2007. He later pleaded guilty to third-degree assault and spent 2 months in jail. It prompted his order of removal. Diaz took his case to a court to have the removal order vacated, but lost. Finally. 42 paragraphs in, we get the bombshell that, this story's protagonist was charged with rape, which, by the way, is generally considered relevant information when you're painting someone as a victim of the system. And notice the language here. He later pleaded guilty to a lesser charge. For anyone who spent 15 minutes around our justice system, we all know what that means. Plea bargain. According to the Department of Justice, about 90% of cases end in plea deals, often to lesser charges. But that original rape charge? Memory hold faster than a politician's embarrassing tweet. 2 months in jail for what started as a rape charge. And the Spokesman-Review acts like this is just a bureaucratic footnote in the tragic ballad of Martin Diaz. And the fact that he tried to fight his removal order and lost, meaning a court heard his case and said, nope, that's somehow further evidence of his victimhood? In what universe? Diaz then earned a second felony conviction 10 years later for domestic violence against the father of his ex-wife. The Spokesman-Review describes the 2 serious felony convictions by saying they further complicated efforts to get legal status, as if that shouldn't be the case. Diaz's defense attorney called them common offenses that are street-level minor in the world of big offenses. Further complicated efforts to get legal status? You know what else complicates things? Hurricanes complicate beach vacations. This guy has 2 felonies, assault and domestic violence, and they're described like they're annoying paperwork errors. Sir, your felony convictions are complicating your immigration status. Have you tried turning them off and back on again? And I love this attorney's framing. Common offenses that are street-level minor. Oh, well, if violence is common, I guess that makes it fine. By that logic, the common cold should be reclassified as not an illness because, it's common. The normalization here is astounding. Let me translate this attorney speak. Sure, my client has multiple violent convictions, but on the grand scale of human depravity, he's practically a saint. The soft bigotry of low expectations has entered the chat, folks. The local and national outlets that picked up the story hope to turn this into Washington's version of Kilmar Abrigo Garcia. They just don't realize that this is a good comparison for all the wrong reasons. So what's the real game here? Media outlets preying on our empathy to make us forget about violent crime. It's like telling your kid a bedtime story where the wolf is just misunderstood while he's literally eating grandma. When journalists bury the lead 42 paragraphs deep, they're not informing, they're manipulating. And for what? So we'll feel bad when violent criminals get deported? I'm sorry, but committing felonies while here illegally isn't some minor paperwork error. It's the definition of should be deported. Let me know if I'm crazy here, folks. Have we really reached the point where domestic violence is just an inconvenient detail in a sad immigration story?